just before I walked in, I looked at what had come in this morning, and they said that they're repricing everything because the market is having such a terrible day. So
it is.
Yeah.
Oh, so they might not go with the half point increase.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, but that doesn't affect. Okay, that affects short term. When they talk about it, their conversations are what drive long-term rates. So, yeah, our rates this morning are not looking real. Interest rates are not looking real good this morning. So, it is what it is. I was telling somebody on the way in. I said, look, interest rates are going to be what interest rates are. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just what they are. And, if history repeats itself, you've heard me say this before, if history repeats itself, in the last 4 presidential elections, interest rates went down that year. If that happens again, we got a presidential election coming up in 2022 or 2024. Should that occur, then rates will come down and you just refinance out of it. Now, we don't know that that'll happen, but there's a possibility, or should we say probability, it might, because it's happened the last 4 times. So we'll see. But anyway, this morning, what I want to talk about, something we've talked about before, but lately people have a tendency to look at closing costs and say, well, it's 3%, or it's 2%, or it's 4%, or it's 6%. And I thought, let's take a moment and just look at the components of closing costs so that you get an idea of what they are. All right? Now, generally speaking, lenders, there's only really, outside of discount points, so we're not going to go into that, outside of discount points, usually lenders have what I call junk fees. And or they might have an origination fee. Now, when you look at the regulatory disclosure that comes out on what's called the official loan estimate, and you look at the very first category, it says origination charges. Didn't say origination fee, it said origination charges. Everything that's charged that goes to the lender is lumped into origination charges. But an origination fee, if they charge one, is generally speaking 1% of the loan amount. Now, in our case, our company does not charge an origination fee. We never quote one, we never do one. We never charge an origination fee, but there are some companies that do. It doesn't make them better or worse, that's what they charge. And oftentimes, if they charge this, then the rate might be just a squeak lower, okay? But anyway, you won't see this a lot. What you'll see on the loan estimate is lenders' origination charges, all right, which include something called, what I call junk fees. Now, when you look at it more closely on the loan estimate, it'll say something like administrative fee, tax service fee, underwriting fee, processing fee, application fee, could say any number of things, all right? Generally speaking, the range of junk fees is going to be somewhere between $900 to about $1,850. Every lender is a little bit different, but it's going to be in that range. To give you an example, at my bank, we charge $1,275. Whether you get a loan for $100,000 or $1 million, we're going to charge you $1,275. That's the fee that our bank gets. That's it. Okay? So when people want to shop closing costs and they start looking at lender fees, if there's no origination fee, which there typically is not, then junk fees are probably not going to be much different from one lender to the next, as you can tell. This is only about $900 difference, and most of them are not on the low end or on the high end. They're usually all someplace right in this window. So lender fees on closing costs are just not that much different. Now, think about this for a moment. Somebody got a calculator with them? Do me a favor and just take 1275 and divide it by 150,000. What's that percentage?
0.0085.
Okay, so right, so just under 1%, 0.8%. Now take 1275 and divide it by 600,000. What do you get?
0.2.
How much?
0.2.
Think about it. 0.2% versus 0.8%.
It's a flat fee.
Exactly. So as a result, the percentage on a higher loan amount is substantially less. That's why I'm uncomfortable when I read a contract and it says seller's going to pay some percentage, because you can do that, but it's not necessarily applicable to the exact situation depending on what your loan amount is. Now, attorney's fees, they've got a whole long list. We'll just do this. We'll put settlement, title, title search, title insurance. All right, now, when you look at a closing statement, and all of you have seen closing statements, this is a very long list. But generally speaking, it's all bundled up into three basic categories. The settlement costs, which include what the attorney is going to get paid. I should put other here. The title search, which includes the title search, the title examination, the title review, all of those things that are related specifically back to the title work. This is a fee, not a percentage. This is a fee, not a percentage. This is a fee, not a percentage. So all of this stuff here is going to be just a set fee. Same thing applies. If the attorney settlement charges are $675 on a $100,000 loan, that sounds outrageous. On $1 million loan, it's nothing. So again, these three are all set fees. When you get to title insurance, there's two types of title insurance. There's owner's title and there's lender's title. So the title insurance, this is a percentage. Now, way back in 2009, 2010, title insurance got moved into the category that is managed by the insurance commissioner in the state of Georgia. Prior to that, it was not. And attorneys could basically, that's how they made a lot of money. I shouldn't say a lot. That's how they made money, was by upselling their title insurance. That all changed in about 2010 when it was all managed by the insurance commissioner. So what happens is now that information goes to the insurance commissioner by the title company, who the attorneys represent, whether it's Old Republic, First American, whoever it happens to be. They publish their rates with the insurance commissioner, who then, if the attorney represents that specific title company, some of them Chicago Title, whatever, they might represent 2 or 3 or 4 different ones. So when they issue the insurance, they can't manipulate it. It is what it is. It's based on the owner's title is based on the sales price of the home and the amount of equity that's going to be there. And the lender's title is based on the loan amount. And it's a percentage. Now, here's the interesting thing. In your contracts, when you're writing a purchase contract, have you ever written a purchase contract without telling the lender who the closing attorney is? Have you ever written one like that? I've never seen one. I've been doing this forever. So if you're telling the lender who the attorney is, what does that say about how much every lender is going to pay for these services?
They're all different.
They're all different?
And they're same.
They're going to be exactly the same. That's right. Because you're telling us who's closing the loan. We're not picking it. If you said we're going to close with Luter Larkin charges exactly the same fees regardless of who the lender is. Doesn't make any difference. So if you tell us where we're closing, that means every lender that the borrower would shop with is going to have exactly the same fees. Make sense? All right? And most 3 of them are set fees. So again, bigger the loan amount, smaller the percentage. This is the only one that's a percentage. State. Can somebody tell me what the 2 state fees are that are charged?
Taxes.
What's that?
Taxes. Tax.
Tax, but I mean, which tax? There's 2 taxes.
Transfer.
Transfer.
I didn't hear.
Transfer.
Transfer tax is 1. What's the other one?
Intangible.
Intangible. Thank you. Anybody know what the transfer tax percentage is? $1 per 1,000. So if you have a $600,000 sales price, your transfer tax is $600. If you have a $150,000 sales price, your transfer tax is $150. Anybody know what the intangible tax is?
150.
What's that?
150.
No. $3 per 1,000 based on the loan amount. So if you're getting a $600,000 home and a $400,000, and you're putting down 20%, and a $480,000 mortgage, you'd take 480 times 3, and that'll tell you what your intangible tax is. Now, go back to a question I just asked you here. Do these state taxes vary from lender to lender? Of course not. So what does this say? This category is going to be the same from lender to lender to lender. This category is going to be the same from lender to lender to lender. So 2 of the 4 categories up here are going to be identical regardless of where your borrower goes to get their loan. Whether they go to Rocket Mortgage, they go to my company, or they go to ABC Mortgage. These 2 categories, which are the largest 2 categories, are going to be identical. No change. What might fall into the other category? Throw out any ideas you might have. What might be in the other category? Appraisal? Credit report? Flood cert? I'm just going to say miscellaneous. There's usually nothing more. Oh, there is one other fee that goes to the state of Georgia. GRMA fee. It's $10 regardless of your mortgage, how big it is, how small it is. You'll see that on all your settlement sheets. That money goes straight to the state. This is what pays for the mortgage division of the banking commission. Appraisal fees. Unless you've got like $1 million property, if you're dealing with most of the mortgages that, sales prices that y'all are dealing with and I'm dealing with, what do you see for appraisal fees? High, low, what do you see?
485.
485?
625.
625? All right. How much?
525.
525? All right, so think about it once. We've got 485 on the low end, 6 1/4 on the high end, 5 1/4. I mean, the total difference, generally speaking, from company to company to company, is not going to be $100. Our company, a standard appraisal is $475. If it's conventional, if it's government, it's $495. If you're doing a big jumbo loan, $1 million property, we just did one, closed it on Friday, and that one there, we charge, I think the charge on that one was like $875. So it can be different, but that's unusual. We don't have a lot of those. So your appraisal cost is almost the same across the board. You probably have never looked close enough, but credit report charges, just a guess, what do you think a credit report charge might be?
$50.
How much? $50. Anybody else? You're not far off. Most people are going to charge somewhere between $29 to $50. That's your typical charge. So, and I would say most of them are going to be around $35 to $39. I think ours is $39. That's where most of them fall. So total difference, if this one here, total difference is less than $100, total difference here is probably less than $20. Flood certification. Flood certification costs $9.50. That's what it costs to run it. What's that?
Is that across the board?
Pretty much across the board, because most of us all use one of 3 different flood certification companies, and they all charge $9.50. So, and lenders are not allowed to upcharge these. You're not allowed to do that. So, I mean, and in miscellaneous, sometimes there's a charge in there for verification of employment. There might be some type of verification that we have to get as a lender that can range, it might be 0, might be 50, small stuff, nothing major. So if you look at this category is identical from lender to lender to lender. This category is identical from lender to lender to lender. This category is probably not going to vary by more than somewhere between $50 to maybe $120, maybe. This category could have a whopping $300-400 difference. Those are closing costs. And what do people say they want to shop for besides interest rates? Closing costs. Really? Now you can't say it to them that way because you'd put them out. You can't. But from your understanding and my understanding, if the total difference between lender to lender to lender is going to be somewhere less than $500, and it's probably not even $500, then what are you shopping for?
Wasting time.
What's that?
Wasting time.
Well, that's right. They're wasting time. Let's get on to something more important. Now, I understand shopping interest rates today. I typically have said, I don't even understand why you shop interest rates. They're all the same. They're not all the same today. Interest rates are a little different today. I'll explain that in a moment. Let me see what time we got. Okay, we're doing all right. That was interesting. Did I make you mad? Yes.
The lenders that are charging the origination fee, that could make a difference.
Oh, that can make a big difference. That can make a big
Or
difference.
They're using it to buy down the points probably.
Typically, that's what they're doing. Typically, they could be doing that. But this is not usual. This is very unusual. But you will see it. Some lenders, you will see this. But other than that fee, everything's basically the same, just not any different. Now, the reason I go over this with you is because when people are saying that they're going to go shopping, our advice is, let's make sure you're shopping for the right thing. Because there's no difference here. Now, there are some other expenses at closing that people have to pay for. Can you tell me the 2 other things, maybe 3 other things they got to pay for at closing? Insurance, I call it prepaids, homeowners insurance, and interest from the day of closing to the end of the month. That's number 1, prepaids. What might be the next one?
Taxes.
What's that?
Taxes.
Taxes. So we're going to call it we're going to call it escrows, because we're going to have to take some of the money from insurance, some of the money for taxes, put it into an escrow account so that there's going to be enough money in the account when taxes come due, and when insurance comes due next year, when that happens, we've got to have some money in the escrow account. And the only other thing would be HOA, if there's an HOA and if there's HOA charges. So let's think about this for a minute. If I have prepaids, and the prepaids are just 2 things. Prepaids are going to be interest from the day of closing to the end of the month. And the second one, the big one, is going to be your homeowner's insurance. Who picks out the charge for their homeowner's insurance? The buyer does. Does the lender have anything to say about it? No. So prepaids are basically identical from lender to lender to lender. It just doesn't make any difference. Escrows. Now, escrows, there's a national formula that every lender uses to determine escrows. The Consumer Finance Protection Bureau issued a formula that everybody in the industry uses to determine how much money a lender can carry in the escrow account at any given time based on the property taxes and the homeowner's insurance. That formula is applied to every single loan, every single purchase transaction that closes that has an escrow account. So if that formula is used by every single lender, and the property taxes are what the property taxes are, and the insurance is picked out by the borrower, how much different will the escrow number be at closing for each lender? They're going to be identical. If there is an HOA, the attorney is the one who gathers the information, gives it to the lender, and says how much we can charge at the closing. Well, if the attorney says that to every lender, they're going to give them what it is, then what's the difference in cost for HOA from lender to lender to lender? 0. Nothing. So when you look at closing expenses, these are closing costs. Closing expenses includes HOA, escrows, and prepaids. If you include all of that, I mean, think about the difference from lender to lender to lender. It's almost nothing. And yet, what does Clark Howard and all of these geniuses online tell everybody to do? Go shop for rates and closing costs. Are you kidding me? I understand the rate side, but I don't understand this. So part of our responsibility, in my opinion, is not to convince somebody of all this. I do that a little bit, but it's really that we can help them understand why they're not going to see a difference. Or if they get a loan estimate from me and a loan estimate from Rocket and a loan estimate from ABC Mortgage, if those estimates are drastically different, there's a mistake. Because now you can see why they can't be drastically different unless, like Pedram said, there's an origination fee. But if there's no origination fee on it, everything should be basically the same. Make sense? Yep. Questions? All right. If you do have any questions and you need to have something that gives you your summary on this, we do have this thing here, which is a cheat sheet that I use. So if you call me up and you say, Greg, what are my costs going to be or my expenses going to be for a $350,000 mortgage? I just take this thing out and I calculate it and done. If you need one of these, just let me know. All right? Thanks, everybody.